So let's get into it a little bit. First off, for
Yeah.
those who don't know you, let's give another introduction. Let's give you the spotlight for a minute. Tell our listeners who you are and what you're doing, and we're going to get into it.
Sure. So Patrick Veroneau, I run a company called Emery Leadership Group. This is a space that I would say I'm obsessed with, as well as passionate about. And a lot of the work that I do in leadership or teams is all around creating better bridges, better relationships with people. But that always starts with ourselves. And I think that's the part that oftentimes gets missed is how do we make sure that we're building the right bridge internally? Because I think all of us agree, if you're not really there for yourself in a good place, it's hard for you to be there for other people. So that's it. That's what we're doing.
No, that's such a great statement. You know, it's the I'm always reminded of an airline, right? When you get on a plane and they'll tell you, and for the longest time, I would always think that was silly. Like, especially if I had a young child, put your mask on first, then get theirs on. And you're thinking, no. And even yet today, still, there's many of us that understand that we have to take care of other things, especially ourselves first before we can help others, but we still continue to neglect ourselves in a lot of areas. And I believe being grateful, I believe being thankful, I believe giving ourselves praise and honestly saying, okay, we did a good job. Maybe I can be better because we can always grow, right? But I think when it comes to this area, we really do have a difficult time being grateful in our life and having that attitude of gratitude. I know it's like, oh, hashtag, but this is real.
Right. I think especially when things don't seem to be going well, right? It's hard to sort of stay focused on what is going well. How are things are going well? Because what do? We catastrophize. We think about the worst case scenarios. And two things. One is those worst case scenarios never happen, or I should say rarely ever happen. And the ones that do happen, we don't have control over anyways. So why waste the time on it?
I like that a lot. It's true. Like our minds can, I think, build a case like in a half a second. We can all of a sudden, it's like, here are all the things that can go wrong or that are going to go wrong. Like we almost like anticipate that it's going to happen. And what does that do to our self-esteem, our confidence? And that's why we had you on the show again.
It's a slippery slope.
Perfect timing. Yes.
So as part of the book that I wrote called The Leadership Bridge, the first part of that book is about building an internal bridge. How do you do that? And I use a lot of data, a lot of research that I believe is able to overlap with the real world, what we actually experience. And one of the things that I did was I took some work by a researcher named Sean Aker, who did what was called the 21-Day Happiness Challenge. And he did this, I think it was back in like 2009, and it was in New York with a financial institution. So if anybody can think back to 2008, right, we remember the financial crash, probably the last thing that people in New York City from a financial standpoint are thinking about, how can I be happier today, right? And he talked about 5 activities that he had them do for 21 days. And to me, what's even more interesting about this is that if you look at a lot of the research on habit formation, 21 days has no validity to it in terms of it working. But in this case, that's what he did. 21-Day Happiness Challenge, 5 activities. And I created a journal out of it that I use called the Power Journal. And it's an acronym for those 5 activities. And there's a lot of research that is done by other individuals that will reinforce the benefit of each of those. So the first one in the Power Journal is praise, which is what we're here talking about today, is around gratitude. So in his work in this 21-Day Happiness Challenge, what they did was they had to write down 3 things that they were grateful for every day. Now, one of the sort of sticking points in this, or not sticking points, but challenges, was it had to be different every day, right? So if you think about it, right, 3 days, I can think of 9 things that I'm grateful for. When we go out to day 15, right, now I've had to think of 45 different things that I'm grateful for. And to me, that's the real power of this thing, because what do? We oftentimes think of, oh, this isn't going well. This is, my life sucks and all those things. When you've got to think about 45 things that are going well, it creates a shift where you can't make that argument anymore with yourself because you have listed off 45 different things that you're grateful for. That to me is
okay. So quick question. Can you use the same thing more than once?
No.
Because I can do
well,
that. I can do
like
that.
that.
I can be like, well, go ahead, Lorianne.
I was just gonna say, I see all the time, like on social media. It's like, what are you grateful for today? And I love to look at the answers that people come up with, because I always come up with the most basic things. I say water. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for clean water, a home that is keeps me safe, that keeps me warm
Right.
in the wintertime. I come down to like the basic things, and probably just because, Patrick, I've been doing this a little bit, so I'm not going to say, hey, I'm grateful for my partner. I'm grateful for my partner, but I want to bring it down even like to some of the things that I think that we skip over so easily.
So here's where my brain goes right away when you say I'm grateful for water. I'm like, well, duh. What are you gonna say? I'm grateful for air. Are you grateful for food too? Right? But don't worry, right? But here's the deal: is yeah, like
Yeah.
there are people right now in parts of this world and in this country, like right here, who don't have access to clean water, or don't have access to food, or don't have the ability to get what they want for their children. We're getting ready to walk into the holidays. There's a lot of things going on. Despite where you are in a sense of where you feel economically we should or shouldn't be as a country, look at Meta. They just announced 11,000 people just lost their job. Or was it 13,000?
Yeah.
Like right before the holidays. That's not the
Right.
only one. There are layoffs happening everywhere as companies are restructuring, because whether they were fiscally responsible or not has nothing to do with the fact that people just lost their jobs.
Right.